Can you wait till Commissioner Waldorf is here? Are we ready? And the recording's going. Okay. Very good. Okay, welcome everyone. It is 2:04. Welcome to our 2028-2023 Board of County Commissioners regular legislative session meeting. It is like I said, 2:03. We will start with the pledge. So if everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we will start with our open public forum, but I am going to ask, was there any written items received for today's agenda? No. There were no written items that we received for items on today's agenda. So we will then start with our open public forum, which Susie Hokanson has signed up. So Susie, we see you every week here, so it's nice for you to come down.
Long-time attendee.
Yes, so you know the drill.
I do. And it's so funny that it's scary to come and be in front of all
Oh, don't be scared.
Because all of you I count as friends, especially Al, because he's a good guy.
Thank you. I'm there for you, babe. Yeah, you and me.
I knew one of these times I'd have to come and talk with you, but I did kind of figure most of you know where I'm coming from on most everything.
I love it.
But first off, I do want to thank you all for running for office, because that's a tough thing to do, and to get yourself elected. And then thank you all for serving, and I do know that all of you are doing your best to represent all of us. And Judith Gilmore was here a couple weeks ago and did the presentation on the mic wasn't even on. Nobody even got to hear all that. Now I get to.
No, well, and I'm going to have you start with your name and address.
Oh, I'm Susie Hokanson. I live at 1315 West Woodside, so I do not live in the city. I live in the county. And you all heard what I said before, but I've given most of you an orange. I had two for you at the end, too, but I don't think you got them. Good. I didn't have enough of them, so Chris and Amber got the ones I had to print on my thing. Anyway, it was the PEPP, which is the Pre-Employment Preparation Program, a nonprofit education training program endorsed by the Union Building Trades, which prepares students interested in entering the building trades to successful, secure paying apprenticeships. And I've known Judith for quite some time, but I really enjoyed her presentation here. And then Amber sent it out in her weekly or whatever it is to invite us. And it was humbling to be there. It was really exciting to be. And I've given you you see the 6 fellows that graduated that day, and none of them had white skin. It was so impressive. It was so impressive to see these men being so well trained and knowing that this was going to be touching generations forever. This was the 51st to be graduating, and there were 4 judges there. You can kind of see everybody that's supporting this. It was just really an honor to be there, and I really want to thank all of you that got this into the budget, because roads and everything else are really important. Anyway, I did it. I'm done talking.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So is there anyone else who would like to come down and testify at our open public forum? Seeing no one in the audience or anyone online? Third and final call. I will close the open public testimony at this point in time. So I will then look to my fellow commissioners for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve items 3, 4, 5, and 6, including all sub-items on today's agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I apologize that I usually ask if anyone wants to take anything separately. Is there anything to be taken separately or to be discussed?
Not on those items.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second to approve items 3, 4, 5, and 6, and a lot of 6, on today's, all sub-items on today's agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That will then take us to, we have 2 public hearing items today. One is 7A, which is to consider increasing the tax revenue for 2023 from 2023 for 2024 in order to discharge the expected expenses and obligations of Spokane County in conjunction with the General Fund, County Road Fund, and Conservation Futures. So this is a public hearing item, and I see Sheldon is coming down from our budget office to give a quick presentation.
That is correct. We do have a quick presentation, and I'll let Rebecca get it pulled up here. Wonderful, thank you. So we are here today to talk about increasing property taxes for 2024 as an option. First, we will start with some basics about property taxes and kind of things that go into helping inform on potential decisions. There are 3 main components of property taxes: the levy amount, assessed value, and then the levy rate. For 2023, proposing 2024 taxes, the assessed value for the entire county is $92.9 billion with a B dollars. That was a 5.2% increase compared to prior year rates. The median home values in Spokane County have also increased. Across the entire county, the median home value went up to about $433,000. And then the unincorporated county increased to about $546,000. Next slide. Here is a chart showing what proposed 2024 rates would look like. We do see a current estimated increase over the 2023 value, and that is based on new construction increases. You can see years prior when we have taken a road levy shift and the amount of the shift, as well as years when there was no increase to the general fund. Next slide. The current proposed levy rate for the general fund is approximately 70 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. The statutory limit for the general fund rate is $1.80. You can see here a history of what the rate has been, and with increased assessed values across the county, the levy rate has decreased. Next slide. There are 4 potential options presented on this slide for general fund property taxes going into 2024. You can see the various options, the potential impact annually to the median assessed value for property owners, as well as what the income would be increased in the general fund. So anywhere from 0 to potentially $7.5 million increase to general fund revenues. Next slide. This is the Conservation Futures levy rate. It is currently approximately 3 cents per thousand. It's a very small levy. The overall limit for this levy is 6 1/4 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. You can see that it's been as high as 4 cents, so not much change to this levy rate. Next slide. Here are two potential options for the Conservation Futures levy. You can see that the impact is pennies for any potential changes, and the revenue increase could be potentially $23,000 to the Conservation Futures Fund. Next slide. This is the county road levy rate. The county road is estimated to be a levy rate of 91 cents per $1,000, which is quite below the $2.25 of statutory limit. You can again see the history as the levy rate has decreased as assessed values have increased across the county. Next slide. And then these are, again, two potential options for the road fund and potential revenue increase of $290,000. And that is it.
Okay. Any questions that any of the commissioners have? Commissioner Jordan?
First of all, thank you, Tessa, for all the help getting up to speed with the budget. One of the questions I have is, I know we've talked in previous budget hearings and presentations about staffing challenges and vacancies. So if we were fully staffed, what would the deficit be with the relative to the current projected revenues in the budget?
That is a good question, and it's probably a multi-million-dollar question.
I thought I had heard 6 to 7 million. Does that sound?
That sounds
accurate?
approximately, yep,
Okay.
from,
All right.
yeah.
And just to clarify, that's the vacancy positions if they were fully funded in the budget.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing item, so if anyone, I'm going to open it up for any public comments on item 7A. See no one. Second call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 7A. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 7A. See no one online, no one in the audience. I will close the public testimony and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam What?
I have both of you wanting to make a motion, so.
Who's being called on?
I will call in Commissioner Jordan
Okay.
first, since he raised his hand first.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make a request that we consider, there's 3 levy decisions, as I understand it: the general fund, conservation futures, and the road fund. So I was hoping to make a motion to consider them separately. I was advised by council that it would be clean to do it that way, given that they're kind of noticed on here as one item, to request that we consider them individually. So that's the motion.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to take each one of them individually versus together. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of taking them individually, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those wishing to, those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Thank you. We will continue to take them all as one in a motion. It doesn't mean that you can't speak to them separately. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that, that we consider no increase or a 0% increase for the tax revenues from 2023 for 2024 in order to discharge the expected expenses and obligations for Spokane County in conjunction with the general fund, county road fund, and conservation futures.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to consider increasing, or to, how did you say that?
No increase
No increase.
or 0%.
Just make sure I get this down right. to consider no increase or 0% for the tax revenue from 2023 to 2024 in order to discharge the expected expenses and obligations of Spokane County in conjunction with the general fund, county road fund, and conservation futures. Discussion. Commissioner Waldron.
Well, I wanted to make a motion to amend the motion. And that would be to amend the motion to do the 1% general fund levy increase and dedicating 75% of the revenues to public safety. So I have do you want me to read my whole motion here? Okay, so that would, it would approve a 1% increase in the general fund revenue for 2024 in the amount of $638,306, with the funds being placed in the non-departmental agency category subject to the following condition. The funds may only be subsequently appropriated by a supplementary appropriation request by certain agencies into their expenditure category for certain purposes to be considered by the Board of County Commissioners upon request from an agency and/or agencies. And the purposes are as follows. Agencies, public safety related agencies, at least 75% of the funds, $478,729.50, can only be allocated to any of the following agencies: sheriff, detention services, juvenile court, prosecuting attorney, public defense, superior court, clerk of superior court, district court, pretrial services, Department of Emergency Management, medical examiner, law and justice administration, and counsel for defense. And then B, other agencies, the remaining 24% of the funds, $159,576.50, may be allocated to any of the agencies listed above or to other general fund agencies not related to public safety. So the purpose, funds may only be used for employee salaries to include compensation, additional staffing, hiring, or retention incentive programs. Sorry for the long motion, but legal counsel likes to have everything out there. So that's the amendment to the motion.
Second.
Okay. I have an amendment to the motion. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Waldron.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's been a really great, can I say almost first year as a county commissioner. I can't believe it's gone so fast, but one of the things that I've done over the course of this year is taken the time to really try and meet with many departments and divisions of the county, and although I haven't had a chance to meet all the county employees yet, I look forward to doing that, and I've worked really hard to listen and observe, and I want to thank Tessa again, and Randy and team. It's been a really good learning process to understand where we are with the budget and the county's challenges. And so one of the biggest challenges, and I think it was alluded to earlier, is that we're just facing a workforce shortage. And I know there's many organizations and companies that are facing that, but especially in our public safety areas here at the county, it's clear we're having a terrible time filling many positions. So we're down juvenile detention officer positions. It's requiring us to move youth to other facilities that may be less accessible or rehabilitative. We have too few detention officers, so there's mandatory overtime. Our sheriff's deputies, we have 35 vacancies, and right now we have 23 of those unfunded in our budget, in the budget we're contemplating for 2024. So that's 160 unfilled positions was the number that we got today at the county. And in the budget that we're looking at, 76.5 of these positions would be unfunded. So many unfilled and unfunded positions. I'm very concerned that it will continue to impact the county's ability to provide the services that our citizens are looking for, whether it be safety in our jails, whether it be a good, fast response from our sheriff's deputies, effective criminal justice for victims in our court system. So because of this, I'm making the motion to do a 1% general fund levy increase. It would result in about $2.65 average increase to property owners in the county in 2024. So the $638,000 in revenue, I'm proposing that 75% of that be dedicated towards those public safety areas of the county that I mentioned, and then the rest could go to other very important positions like engineering and maintaining our roads, for instance. So just today at our morning briefing session, we were reminded that we are understaffed in both our prosecutor's office as well as in our public defender's office. We have openings for young new attorneys as well as experienced attorneys, to the point where we're discussing, contracting out defense services, which would be expensive to the county and to our taxpayers. So I'm really concerned we're reaching a tipping point with our human resources here at the county. And by not making a modest levy increase, again, $2.65 the average property owner would pay in 2024, it could really impact our ability to provide the quality services and could result in larger levy increases in the future. I would like to keep things as incremental and modest as possible, knowing how everyone has been trying to make ends meet with inflation the way it's been the last couple of years. So I just think it's important, it would be responsible that we put aside funds. We can analyze our positions in 2024 and have the funds available to make budget adjustments to retain and recruit employees for these important positions. So I would ask the board members to support the motion. And again, 75% to be dedicated to critical public safety positions.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Kearns?
So I'm old enough to remember where we didn't put vacancy adjustments into our budget. So I would probably say the county has never been 100% staffed. There are always vacant positions at Spokane County. When you don't put a vacancy adjustment in your budget, that means you're going to fund positions that in many cases are not going to be filled on January 1st. They may not be filled on February 1st. They may not be filled on July 1st. But if you dedicate funds to pay for those positions as if they are fully staffed, filled for 12 months, you're locking up dollars that can't be spent on other ways. You're dedicating more funds than you actually need to. And I mean, we have a budget right now that will balance, that we have excess funds. Like our budget that we are going to adopt in a little over a week balances with revenues that are currently expected and projected to come in. So all this does is brings more money into the county, which, yes, as a county, that's great. The only loser in that situation is the taxpayer, because we don't need the funds. We can meet our obligations, deliver the services that we are expected to with the expected revenues. So I'm going to vote no on this amendment.
So I will just make a quick comment that I just was at the meeting where we certified the election and Measure 1 failed by 38%. I mean, only 38% voted in support of it. So citizens were saying no to public safety at that point in time and no to tax increases. We do have a budget currently in front of us that will take care of where we're at today. We will have to look at where we're at next year. But in the past, the vacant positions has been kind of a slush fund for those departments, as they have not filled those positions. And so we are taking a hard look, just like every family is taking a hard look at their budgets. And so I will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting the motion. Appreciate Commissioner Waldriff bringing this forward. I wanted to emphasize that this is a $2.65 proposed levy increase for the average property owner in total throughout the year. It's not per $1,000 of assessed value. It's $2.65 per year in total to address vacancy challenges we have at the county focused on public safety. To me, it is critical that we have 35 vacancies in our sheriff's office right now. Most of those are not funded in this budget. We have 119 public safety vacancies in public safety related departments. And so the motion today, as I understand it, is really to do what the board has done for 8 of the last 10 years before I took office, and what the vast majority of counties across the state do every year, regardless of the party who's in charge, and that is raise that general fund levy by the 1%. It is typically done here and across the state. And I think it's also important that Commissioner Waldrop's motion dedicates those funds, 75% of the funds, toward public safety departments, because that's where 75% of our vacancies are. Just a few points I wanted to touch on. I agree with Commissioner Waldrop. It's been a real honor this year getting to know all of our amazing county employees. I've met with most of the departments this year, roads crew, court, the jails, sheriff's office, and many others. And the number one takeaway I have had is just how hardworking and efficient our public servants here are at the county. They really are the backbone of the organization. I think we'd all agree with that. But the second consistent theme that I've been hearing has been the significant challenge with recruitment and retention. And I don't think Commissioner Waldrop's concern is about the vacancy adjustment. It's about the number of vacancies. That is not normal to have that many vacancies in our public safety related departments. And according to the data we've received, we have 160 vacancies in the general fund departments, and that is a lot of unfilled positions, and it's a lot to ask of our current employees to pick up all that slack. I do think that this is the fiscally responsible step that we can take to prepare ourselves to return to more normal staffing over the next couple of years. I am really concerned when I look at the revenues and expenses that we have a structural gap that is not as apparent at the moment because of the number of vacancies that we have, but we have significant contract negotiations coming up. I think in the next year we are initiating negotiations for our master contract. We're initiating negotiations for our sheriff's deputies contract. We are initiating negotiations for the detention services contract, and I think we should take a reasonable step to put ourselves in a strong position to be able to provide competitive compensation for our workers. And I just want to point out that the way that Commissioner Waldrop presented her motion, these $638,000 could also be used on some strategies to increase recruitment. So the dollars could be used for retention bonuses or hiring bonuses to really get at why do we have so many vacancies, particularly in public safety positions. A few more comments. I do think that the 1% increase can be a little bit of a misleading phrase because, as we all know up here, the county is only a narrow portion of property tax bill. We are limited by law to a 1% increase of the total dollars that we collect, not the average bill. So we're really talking about $2.65. I don't think this should be partisan. I was at the Washington State Association of Counties conference last week. I spoke to 3 county commissioners from small eastern Washington counties, all run by the opposite party of mine, and they all indicated that they're doing this action. So it's a bipartisan strategy, and they all said it was because of basic fiscal responsibility. Finally, I just wanted to say that I understand the concern about Measure 1, but I don't think that it's comparable to what's being proposed here. Measure 1 was a over 20 times larger tax increase on an annual basis than what we're talking about here. And I think that the part of the fatal flaw with Measure 1 in this particular go-around was the lack of a detailed plan in the minds of many voters. Commissioner Waldrop's proposal here dedicates 100% of the funds towards specific things, compensation, employee recruitment and retention, et cetera. So I see this proposal as being modest, incremental, reasonable, and geared at protecting the public services that citizens have today and really putting us in a good position to be able to have some intentional strategies to staff up our sheriff's department and other county departments. Thank you.
Commissioner French.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually wasn't going to comment on this one, but, geez, there's been so much misinformation and disinformation out there. I thought, well, shoot, why not throw my hat in the ring here? One, the lack of law enforcement officers is not a function of pay. It's a function that the state has demoralized and disincentivized people to go into the law enforcement professionals. This is not just Spokane County issue. This is the city's issue. This is the Washington State Patrol. This is across the state. You don't solve problems like this by throwing more money at it. You solve problems like this by honoring the work that our law enforcement officers are doing out there to keep our community safe. That's a legislative fix. That's not a financial fix. To compare us to smaller counties in eastern Washington is a disservice because we are the largest county in eastern Washington. We have a growing economy. One of the benefits of a growing economy is that you have additional revenue to build your tax base on without having to go to your taxpayers and constantly pick their pockets for their precious dollars. It's interesting that when we talk about inflation, well, it's a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here, and by the time you're done with it, it's a whole lot. And that's what our citizens are experiencing, is an inflation that's eroding the buying power of their pocketbook. And so is this going to solve their problem? No, but it's going to help contribute to trying to keep their dollars in their pocket and not ours. They're better spent in their pockets, not ours, especially when we have a balanced budget, especially when we have the opportunity to meet all of our needs and stuff. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to speak against this motion. And as long as we're talking about Measure 1 and this conversation about there wasn't enough detail, what I've heard consistently was 40% of the tax went to the cities, and the cities didn't tell us how they were going to spend the money. That's what I heard. So, maybe the next time we make sure that the cities are on board and telling their citizens how they're going to spend their 40% of that tax to be able to keep their citizens safe, because we already had a plan talking about how we're going to do it from the county standpoint. Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate a difference of opinion. I think it's unfortunate to use phrases like pickpockets. I just want to remind my colleagues that it was this board that's voted for this very action for 8 of the last 10 years. This is Commissioner Waldrop and I's first year here, and so I think what we're suggesting is simply to do what has been typically done here in the past.
Commissioner French.
And the reason for that is because we were starting to grow a vibrant economy, and clearly in the last several years, we've seen the result of that growing, vibrant economy. We've seen our tax base grow every year, and that is because we've invested. We've made smart decisions that have benefited the taxpayers, and this is just the benefit of that growth, is we don't have to use their tax dollars. We use the tax dollars of new people and new businesses that have come to this county. It is our tax base that is growing, not our taxes out of their pocket. That's the difference.
Okay, I have an amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion does not carry. That, Commissioner French. I still have the original motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a clarification on the original motion, and I'm going to look at council. Does that motion also have to include a provision that we bank that capacity at this point? Or is the decision to bank the capacity made at a later date? I'm concerned that it has to be made at the same time we vote to not take the tax. We also have to take and bank that capacity in the same action. But I yield to Mr. Amacio in terms of refreshing my memory on the procedure.
Commissioner French, that is an excellent question. You no longer need to make a special motion with regard to banking the 1% if you do not do it. It's automatic. If you have a zero increase in any of the increase in revenue in any of the three funds, the 1% is automatically banked. You don't need to include it in the motion.
Thank you. That's not always been the case, so I thank you for that. Thank you. Then I have no additional amendments to make. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us back to the main motion, which was the motion made by Commissioner Kearns.
Yes.
But I also wanted to, maybe I missed it, but I wanted to ask the chair if there were any written comments for the purposes of today's public hearing.
No, I asked,
Received.
I asked to start the meeting if there was any written comments received, and they were not.
All right, perfect.
For,
You guys are
for any items on today's agenda.
perfect. Okay. And you guys are good to proceed then with the main motion.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion of a no increase to the tax revenue for 2023 from 2023 for 2024 in order to discharge the expected expenses and obligations of Spokane County in conjunction with the General Fund, County Road Fund, and Conservation Futures Fund. And so there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Commissioner Waldron.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that the board considered the motion to do the modest levy increase. I guess I'm disappointed because I am very concerned that the county remain competitive across all of our departments. I think we need to analyze why we have so many vacancies in 2024, and I'm concerned that, again, so I'm going to vote against the motion because I am concerned that we have the funds that we don't, by not making the 1% increase, we won't have the funds available to address some of our vacancy needs, especially in public safety.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Jordan?
Just briefly, I share Commissioner Waldron's feelings. I know there's been a lot of talk in the community over the last few years about funding for law enforcement, public safety, and I think that doing the 1%, directing it to public safety would be an opportunity to put our money where our mouth is a little bit. So I'm disappointed, really am concerned about the high number of vacancies across the county, worried about the structural gap coming over the next couple of years, but I hope that we can continue to work on those things proactively over the next year.
Commissioner French?
What structural gap?
Commissioner Jordan?
$6 to $7 million deficit if we were staffed up. That's what I'm concerned about.
Commissioner French?
And so if we, for the first time in the entire time I've been here, ever achieved 100% staffing, then that means the economy is growing and there's additional revenue to pay for it. But we've not experienced that. I think Commissioner Kearns articulated that very well, that while the positions have been funded, we rarely, in fact, I can't remember a day when we had fully staffed all of our positions that were funded and stuff. So your hypothesis is based upon a reality that's never existed. So I'd really rather make decisions based upon what we're experienced, and this is the experience we've had. Thank you.
So I certainly share the concern of having all these vacancies in public safety for the sheriff's department and for corrections officers. I believe we're doing, bonuses to try to get people to come into those areas. So we are already trying. There's been discussions this year as well as previous years as to what are the other ways to do it. So I think those are things we're going to still continue to look at to figure out why we have the vacancies and what we can do to continue to support getting people in. These are things that are happening, speaking about being at the County Leaders Conference, that are happening across the state everywhere. So it is not just Spokane County that is seeing this issue. It is going on across the state as well as across the nation. Just talking to MacArthur Foundation yesterday, talking about corrections officers that they're seeing and just staffing for law enforcement and just, positions anywhere. It's hard. So it is something that we're all going to be struggling with and all wrestling with. And definitely I know we're all look forward to having those continued discussions into 2024. So with that, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2. Okay, that is going to take us to then item 7B on today's agenda, which is in the matter of increasing stormwater management service charges. And it looks like we have Ben Bradabo who's coming up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today for this public hearing and give a little overview of what we're asking about. And these are slides presented a few weeks ago to you requesting an increase of stormwater management service charges. And so these are fees that are charged on annual property tax assessments. If we go to the next slide, please. They were last updated in 2007, and they're shown there on the table at the bottom. They were increased in 05, 06, 07, and then since then have not been increased. And so what we're asking for today is a $5 per equivalent residential unit increase per year on each of those categories. The top three are for special areas that have increased service requirements, and then the bottom line is the overall stormwater service area. So it would go for the majority of the county would go from $21 to $26. And then they would remain level at that point. But we just to remind you that we do have a rate study that's going on and looking at our service charges on an ongoing basis. And we anticipate that we'll receive a recommendation from our consultants in late 2024, and we anticipate that it will recommend an increase. And so this would be part of that, kind of that first step towards that increase. The next slide, please. A couple items here. This is an outline of what we do and why we need additional funds to operate the stormwater utility. But the figure here on the right represents where we stand compared to other stormwater utilities in eastern Washington, and the green bars is where the standard Spokane County service fee. This is in a monthly rate, though it's applied on annually. It's the lowest charge in eastern Washington, and then the increase takes us to, still will be low, but a bit higher. And then the others are the orange, blue, and yellow represent the different service areas. And so again, it's a $5 per ERU per year increase. And then the final slide is a graphic that represents where our service area is. And so it's the yellow area outside of the incorporated areas. The yellow area overlaps with the purple area. Our study is also looking at whether or not this is the right service area that we should be covering, and that will likely be addressed in the recommendations in late 2024. But for right now, the request is a $5 per equivalent residential unit per year within the yellow and purple area shown on the graph, or on the figure here. If there's any questions?
Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you.
I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you. So this is a public hearing item. in the matter of increasing stormwater management service charges. So I'll open it up to the public hearing. See no one in the audience. Anyone online? Second call for anyone wishing to testify. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 7B. Not seeing anyone, I will close the open public testimony and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, move to approve public hearing item number 7B as presented by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to the end of our agenda, scheduled agenda items. Mr. Simmons, is there anything else that you would like to discuss today?
We have one executive session item, Madam Chair.
Okay. And so
I have-
purpose and time, and
Yep, I can do that. I just want to make sure there was no miscellaneous.
is there any
anyone
other
else had.
miscellaneous items?
Okay. We've got labor negotiations under RCW 4230, 140 sub 4. The attendees, in addition to the board, myself, Casey Evans, will be Ashley Cameron, Josh Grote, Kyle Tuig, Matt Zarakor, and Sarah Erb. There will be, and Tessa Sheldon, thank you. It'll be for approximately 40 minutes, no decisions at the end.
Okay, so we are going to go into executive session. It'll take us about 5 minutes to clear. So we'll go into executive session at 2:55, at which time we'll also be signing documents. And for the purpose stated, and with the people that were just stated, no decisions are anticipated to be made. So at the end of the 40 minutes, we will adjourn for the day. Thank you all very much, and we'll go into executive session at 2:55.